Ladies and gentlemen, this evening's performance of
The Diz Explorers
will begin in 2 minutes. Excellent
listening
locations are still available all around Showcase Promenade. Due to the use of
alcohol and opinions
around the lagoon, for your safety, we request that you remain on the promenade side of all railings. During the show, please watch your step and take small children firmly by the hand. Once again, this evening's performance of
The Diz Explorers
will begin in just 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Diz Explorers podcast, where each week we explore the many avenues of the great Disney universe. Well, we're back. We hope everybody had a enjoyable Memorial Day and week before and week after. It seems like it's been a while since we've all been together to record, but that's what happens with life. Sometimes, unfortunately, we cannot get together and talk about our most favorite thing in the world besides our loved ones and children. And, sometimes Disney may trump that depending on how said loved ones and children are behaving. Right?
So true.
So, this week we're going to, another interesting topic. I know I say that often, but not parks or movies related. Or yeah, I guess it is movies related.
A little bit.
Not movies like we've been. Not new movies. So we're gonna venture out of the Disney realm this week and kind of talk about animated features done by other studios from our childhood, current ones, kind of whichever ones, and ones we've never heard of. As we were kind of chatting beforehand, Adrianne had put a list together on our little group of about 40 movies, and there's probably 80% of them that I had never heard of. So I don't know if that's good or bad, or if they just weren't, super popular when they came out. I know, back in the day when we were young, it's not like there were streaming services. If you didn't hear about it or go to the local video store and find it, you kind of didn't know about it, unless you had that one friend who was into, not so popular movies and would somehow get his hands on them because he knew the guy at the video store, or however you could, bootleg or whatever it was back then. Because it's not like these movies were usually, if they weren't in theaters, they never really would hit any sort of network TV, and cable was very expensive and didn't play all these movies.
Well, and I'm thinking about half of these were probably on VHS.
They probably all were, and some of the ones, if they were done, if they were overseas, then if they never made it to the States until as of in the last 20 years, I don't know. So anyway, we're just going to kind of go around and just kind of bring up and chat about these non-Disney animated films and kind of how they hold up compared to, I guess depending on when their release was, how they fare to Disney animated features of the same time period, or ones that are out today. We'll see where it goes.
Okay, so before we kind of really delve into this topic, when we first brought it up, we were saying, okay, so what makes Disney better? What's different about Disney versus, other animated features? And so I had a question for you guys in Disney versus Pixar. Do you feel like there's a difference there in quality?
I do, yes. while Pixar animation is amazing and it's great, it is 100% computer generated, which I understand. You know, the artists still have to draw, and it's still being done that way. But I know the new string of Disney animated movies, you know, Rapunzel and Princess and the Frog was hand drawn. Still, that was the last hand drawn movie. But like Rapunzel and Frozen and stuff, yeah, there is computers involved, but I still believe a lot of it is hand drawn first. I could be wrong. It just, there's a difference. You can just see a difference in the two movies. And also the Disney storytelling is still, to me, a classic storytelling type style, I think, and maybe a little more whimsical, whereas the Pixar formula isn't like rinse, recycle, repeat, but it is somewhat predictable, I think, in a way. You know, like I'm trying to think of like the Toy Story movies and Up and well, I can't think of any other Pixar movies off the top of my head right now. Cars, Nemo, and I mean, while those movies are all awesome, I love them just as much as the next one. I think I enjoy the Disney animated ones more. So yeah, like Rapunzel and Wreck-It Ralph, some of the ones that aren't as super mainstream, I guess, as the very popular ones, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
I have a hard time differentiating between them in my head, because when I still think like Disney, I'm still thinking classic Disney. So I'm thinking my childhood, like Little Mermaid, Mulan, Lion King, that era, as opposed to like Frozen, Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph even. And it just seems like the later 2000s and up into this era, it's like Pixar has really dominated, and their storytelling has affected even how Disney has started. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes. That's what I was thinking, because I think it's forcing. We were just talking about, before we started recording, the trailer for Wreck-It Ralph 2 and how there's that scene kind of where the princesses are like making fun of themselves. And I think particularly I noticed it with Moana, but I think it's also true with Rapunzel and even with Frozen a little bit, is they're starting to make fun of themselves a little bit with elements of the storytelling, which Pixar has always done. And I don't think Disney used to do that. So there's still a difference. And I think it's pretty quick to tell if you're familiar with either studio, oh, that's Pixar, or oh, that's Disney. But the line is less and less clear because they're starting to mimic each other in that kind of storytelling.
I guess, yeah, I never...
Yeah, I think even Zootopia, right? Zootopia is just me. And they even threw in the lines about, let it go.
Right. Yeah, that's true. There are little, I guess, callbacks, if you would, to earlier films now. Yeah, I guess if you think about it in that sense. I don't know, I think I look at it in a different way, because for me, the movies, and I think I know we've talked about it with the Marvel stuff, and I've expressed the same sentiment, and I believe this holds true for Disney and Pixar movies. I think I watch them and enjoy them mostly for the entertainment value I get out of it, and whether I enjoy watching it and repeatability, and then make me laugh and make me go through the emotional roller coaster. And I tend, and maybe it's a disservice to myself, I tend not to pick up on a lot of those things, Easter eggs and the callbacks and stuff, unless they're really blatant, because I think I just get so into the movie, even if I've seen it a million times. And so, like, listening to Jessica and Adrianne just say that, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh wow, you're right. Like, I don't realize that stuff right away. I don't know if it's just, I don't know if it's like the kid in me that just watches the movie and it's just fun, and I like to watch the movie, and then that's it. Like, I don't think about it too much, I guess, unless I'm talking about it with somebody. I don't know. I guess my brain doesn't process it that way. If that makes any sense, I don't know.
Well, I'm usually like an on the surface kind of girl, right? If I go in and I watch a movie and I enjoy it purely for the fact that it was good storytelling, you know what I mean? But then if I really like a movie, I tend to really geek out about
I
it.
agree. Yes,
and then I know all the minute
Right.
details that, 99% of the people in the world probably don't
No,
care
I'm
about.
with that. That's me as well. Yeah, which is why I became so, well versed on all the Pirates movies when they came out, and
Right.
certain, not so much with the animated features. I mean, I would look up when there was all those Easter eggs in the Pixar. My brother was very good at stuff like that. Like, he was able to pick out Easter egg things. Like, when Toy Story 3 came out, he's like, oh, did you see, after the first time seeing it, I'm like, how the hell do you point that stuff out? I said, I'm just trying to see the screen through tears rolling down my face. How the hell are you watching, seeing where the up letter is, and the grape soda tag, and this and that, and the other thing, and the Pizza Planet truck, and this is like, I've never seen any of that stuff in any of those damn movies, unless I stop it. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Until after.
I mean, definitely not on the big screen.
But I think, too, kind of getting back to the topic, as I'm scrolling through this list of non-Disney movies, and it names a lot of, or when I was looking it up earlier today, too, it named a lot of the studios. A lot of those studios I'd never heard of before. And like Don Bluth, I know who he is, but I didn't know he had a studio himself. And so I think one of the things that separates Disney from non-Disney is the fact that we're comparing Disney to 20 or 30 other studios.
Right.
Like, nobody really has that longevity and history of storytelling and is so ingrained in our consciousness. Like, when you think of your childhood and cartoons, 90% of what you watched was Disney.
Correct.
And why do you think they have such a monopoly? Because there have been so many other studios that have produced really good movies. I've never figured out exactly what Disney did differently,
I think above all, what Disney does, I think, better is, I think, just the storytelling and character development that is put into these films. Maybe not so much with some of the classics, because there was not much character development back then. That was more solely on storytelling and the drawing and the art and the background art. I think that is what I think keeps people coming back to Disney and keeps them in the forefront, if I had to think about it. Now, eventually I think we'll get into some of the movies that we've been talking about, but I'm going to throw one out there just as kind of like as an outlier. So I think the next one in line that's the biggest, or that I can think of off the top of my head, next movie studio in line as far as animation goes, is probably DreamWorks, who I don't know if it still is their biggest one, but I think the Shrek series is probably one of their more successful ones. So now those movies that's the outlier. So there's 3 of them, or maybe 4 with some shorts or whatever. There's 3 full-length ones, and all of them, starting with the first, had great character development, and they all pretty much stayed through the story, through the whole thing, in various different roles and up and down, and who teamed up and who didn't, and what perils they all were involved in. So, like, that movie, I think, is an outlier because there was multiples of them. Other movies that DreamWorks have done, and I know Miramax was another big one. Don Bluth did have, I think All Dogs Go to Heaven was probably the only one I can think of that was a Don Bluth film that I remember. Sony had a couple of ones then. I don't know that they still are even involved in animation anymore. But I don't know, to answer Adrian's thing, I think it's the storytelling. I think Disney storytelling still trumps, and you can throw Pixar in it now. I realize they are one and the same, even though their movies are, I guess, produced or released as separate entities. Because it's Disney Pixar, and then there's Disney Animation Studios.
I think it goes back, honestly, I think it goes all the way back to Walt Disney and when we talk about the parks, and we talk about the immersion, and we talk about the attention to detail and the theming and all of that, I think he translated into his animations. I think he really wanted, when you sat down in a movie theater, to be immersed, to not think about anything else for the next 70 to 90 minutes or whatever it was at the time. And that's what, and also, from what I've watched in documentaries about him too, he this is how it's going to be done. And thankfully, he was pretty good at what he did.
Oh, definitely, yes. Oh, no, it was definitely Walt's way, yeah.
And, so he directed the studio in a way that has continued in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like we were saying, what sets Disney apart? I think it's that. I think it's, we're doing this, we're focusing on this, we're going to make this the best thing that it can be, no matter what. And, I mean, with the exception of maybe Cars 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's typically storytelling driven and not necessarily money driven. I think we mentioned on a podcast before that Disney wanted to make money so that he could make more movies.
Yes.
It wasn't about, it wasn't about the making of the money. It was continuing to do what he loved and was good at.
That was the original intent, I believe.
Yeah.
Nowadays
it's whatever, but
whatever brings it.
But I do still think that you have people in the Disney company who continue with that mindset, and that our job for the last however many years, 60, 80 years, has been to entertain family and children. And so I think that that's one of the reasons that it's continued to be so successful.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were just talking about how they've had such longevity, and I think about the period, some people call it like the dark age of the animation, the 70s and 80s, when they just didn't produce that much and it wasn't that successful. So maybe that was a time when they were being too formulaic and too much like the other studios, and they had to kind of go back and say and do the whole, I don't know if it's fair to say innovation, because they are retelling fairy tales, but just they're with their own detail and twist and everything. And the other thing was The Little Mermaid kind of ushered in a new era of musical animation with sing-alongs, because I mean, all of their movies had songs, and some, like the Aristocats, it was super catchy, but they weren't really read. They're almost like plays where the songs tell the story of what's happening instead of just being like a musical pause, Right. And I can't think of a lot of other studios that have done that.
No, not many at all. Well, totally, because I remember, I promise you, we'll get to movies that aren't Disney, but it's hard to make it's hard to make points without referencing back to them. So what you just said, Jessica, I remember the first time I watched Frozen, and I was like, this isn't even a movie. It's literally a musical with maybe some dialogue in between.
Right.
And I was kind of,
I thought the same thing. It was like a Broadway play.
And I didn't know how to feel when I walked out of the theater, and it wasn't until I watched it again at home on a DVD, and I was like, God damn it, this is good. It's like I can't. It's a good friggin' story. It's a good movie. I was like, holy crap. Okay, I get it now. And yeah, totally what you said, Jessica. Because other than like the Aristocats, and the Jungle Book, most of those movies didn't have. I mean, they had a few songs in it that were the key songs, maybe one or two, but it wasn't. They weren't churning out 5, 6, 7 songs that were all awesome to listen to multiple times. Until that second regime came at the end of the 80s. And now it seems to be standard fare for the most part. I mean, there are certain movies that have done well that didn't have any musical numbers other than the score. Wreck-It Ralph being one, The Incredibles. None of them have any actual songs in it that you're coming out singing. And neither one of them actually needed it.
Well, yeah. Now, Wreck-It Ralph, definitely not a musical, but its soundtrack
the soundtrack is great.
Fun.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
We listen to that all the time.
I agree. The Incredibles soundtrack is good too, just to throw on as background music. Then again, the composers that they get and that's the other thing too. I mean, a lot of the composers and these guys who are involved in this have done multiple movies for either Disney or Pixar and are called back. Randy Newman, Michael Giacchino. I mean, those guys have, fantastic credentials with doing stuff with Disney over the years. So,
right.
Alan Menken, Tim Wright. I mean, go on. I don't remember the couple that did Frozen, but
I can't either. Now I feel bad.
It was Kristen Anderson Lopez and I think Robert Lopez is her.
Them.
Right.
Sounds good.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
So, anyway. All right, so that's, I guess, how, that's what we're kind of basing, I guess, our lists on. I don't know that we necessarily have a list, but I think we're just going to kind of throw movies out there that we're thinking of based on some of the ones that of the list that Adrianne had sent, and then I had written down a bunch that I remember my kids watching that weren't Disney ones that I did have DVDs for, that ones I didn't see on the list. You know, stuff that I knew that I was kind of familiar with that was, I guess, tolerable would be the word, because some of them were, they liked to watch them a bunch of times because they were maybe funny, but watching them were, for me, watching them was hard because it's like, man, it's like, the story's, it's a decent story, but it's not either being told well, or like the characters are kind of bland or not. I don't know. It's, you know, it's kind of weird. It's hard to explain it. So
okay. There are 2 movies on this list that I sent you guys that literally scared me to death as a child, and I think that's one other thing that kind of sets some of these movies apart from Disney. Like, Disney never went this dark, I don't think. But The Last Unicorn and The Secret of NIMH are amazing if you've never seen them. But they terrified
Last
me.
Unicorn, I don't remember if I ever seen. Secret of NIMH, I loved. And it scared the Bojangles out of me and my brother, I remember, but I loved that movie. I haven't seen it probably in 30
oh my gosh,
years.
It's amazing.
But I have to get my hands on a copy now, because seeing it again, seeing it in this list, and I was like,
yeah, I have a copy, and I haven't been brave enough to show my children yet, because I'm not ready for
that
nightmares.
movie is creepy.
It is super
but
creepy.
It's so good. Yeah, it's
but
so
I
good.
love it. But The Last Unicorn is one of the, I mean, if you're into animation, it is one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. And I don't even know how old it is. I'm going to have to look that down. But the voice act, it's Mia Farrow, and it's all about literally the last unicorn on Earth who is protected by being put into the body of a woman. And there's this whole, it's 1982. Okay. So, and she's being protected by this drunk, essentially, magician. And they go to a castle. I'm not even kidding. This is how piecemeal my brain is working. But they go to this castle, and it's protected by this skeleton who wants to get drunk but can't, because he's a skeleton. So they give him wine, and he drinks the wine, and you watch it like fall through his gullet because he's a skeleton. And there's this big creepy monster that's trying to devour all the unicorns. I mean, it's nuts, and it sounds insane, but it is so good. I highly recommend it if you can find a copy.
Animation, man. There was no PC. There was no like, oh, you can't do this because it's a kids movie. I mean, you know.
I mean, and I'm like 7 years old, right? Like super sheltered, and I'm like, why is the grape juice going through the skeleton's stomach? I don't know.
So did you like it even though it terrified you, or did you hate it?
See, my parents raised me on really weird stuff. Like, we were all about the, what's that? Why is it leaping my brain? With, Magic Dance, the baby song. He steals the baby from Jennifer Connelly. David Bowie.
Labyrinth? Labyrinth? No. Labyrinth,
yes, the Labyrinth.
Dark Crystal,
Crystal. Yeah, all of those. Like those, that was my bread and butter when I was a kid, man.
Stuff was friggin' weird, too.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it was weird and stuff, but I loved it because I didn't realize how weird it was at the time. I mean, I was also raised on like Blazing Saddles and, you know, Spaceballs and all that kind of stuff too. So all the stuff my dad let me watch when my mom wasn't at home. But so I mean, it scared me to death. And The Secret of NIMH, I can still remember. My dad tells the story that the first time I watched it, I didn't sleep for like a week. But then I wanted to watch it nonstop, and he taught me. This is how I learned to use a VCR. He taught me how to stop, rewind, and play so that I can just watch it again.
Be kind, please rewind.
Yes.
Well, I wonder if my mother still has a copy of that, because I remember watching it with my brother and other friends that we always used to get together with, and just probably the first time we watched it was with a gang of kids. It was just like, I just remember being like, I remember my brother not making it through, I think, the first couple times, because then towards the end, when I can't believe I even remember some of this, but I think it's at the end when that whole, when I guess it's the little mouse, whatever the main character is standing outside, and the whole thing's like collapsing or engulfing itself or something. And I was like,
Yes.
holy crap! Their whole home is like being
their
sucked
home
in,
is
and all the
gonna-
other people.
And the kid, the
Yeah.
little mouse, little baby mouse is dead, like
Yeah.
gonna die inside. They're all gonna smother.
It's
like
horrible,
it's terrifying. And the big owl, like he's still freaking
And I
me
think,
out.
and I don't know if that's literally the only part of that movie that I remember now to this day. I'm sure if I watch it, more of it I'll pick on it. But those images of like that little mouse sitting there and like this, and this stuff, the way it was animated was weird. It was like just creepy looking, just
Yes, it's all like in
it's
reds,
like reds and browns, scary
like,
as all hell. Like the being just like engulfed into the ground, and there's like fire everywhere, or like I don't know, man. It's just weird. It was so strange, but I couldn't not watch it.
But another one on this list that I think has rivaled a lot of the newer Disney ones is the How to Train Your
I
Dragon
haven't
movies.
seen those.
There's two of, they're so good, and I'm pretty sure one of them won Best Oscar over whatever Disney had put up that year. They're amazing.
I've heard that. And I think my kids have seen at least maybe the first two.
Well, there's only two out.
Oh,
There's a
third
third
one's coming
one
out.
coming.
Oh, okay.
They just released a poster for
Gotcha.
it this week. And I'm really excited. Now, granted, I say this, but I have not fully watched the second one because it was really sad. Like, my sister said, it's really sad. You're probably going to cry. And I said, well,
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
up
right.
for that yet. So I only watched part of it.
Only supposed to cry at Disney movies.
Right. I was like, I'm not ready for that. So,
Yeah,
I'll have to
the
wait.
one on this list that I saw that stands out to me the most, that I remember giving me like the Disney feels, was the Iron Giant.
oh, yeah.
Oh,
Right? Isn't the ending
yeah.
like? Isn't the end of that movie like not horrible, but isn't it like it's like a? It's
No, it is horrible.
Right? That's
It's
what
horrible.
I remember
It's
that. I was
horrible.
like, holy crap! Like this is like, whoa. And I haven't seen that movie in years, but I do remember like, I remember the ending. It's like wow. So that I know is another one that I think probably would hold up if I were to see it. I mean,
Yeah. I just remember that it was funny
yes,
the whole way through.
It
Yeah.
was definitely had some more humor to it, which I think a lot of these non-Disney movies did kind of had more humor to them than the more serious tone, I think, of a lot of the Disney movies. Not that they didn't have humor in them, but I feel like now there's much more humor involved. Like I remember the first time I watched the first Cars, like I was hysterical, like at all the like the nonsense in between, and Mater and the whole opening scene with all the stereotypical NASCAR type fans that were made into cars and RVs and stuff, and like that stuff. My kids would look at me like, "Why? What's so funny?" I'm like, I was like, "You just have to be older. When you're older, you'll get it. It's just funny. It's like the stuff they throw in there for the adults." Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. Like I don't, like Shrek. Like the first time I saw Shrek, I was on the ground. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is just a complete mockery of anything Disney has ever done ever." It's like the whole thing is just like, God. It's just, and it was hysterical. Like I didn't. Like I loved it because it was making fun of something that I, that's my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't.
Have you not been to Universal
Not in
Park?
20 years. So.
Everything they do there is.
I'm sure it is. I've heard.
Yeah.
I've
all
heard
their
that.
shows.
I've heard. I just haven't been. Yeah, but just that movie, like the whole thing when he gets to the castle with Donkey, and it's the ridiculous switchbacks for days, and that little mailbox that opens up and sings like it's like the Small World mockery. Like I lost it the first time I watched it. I was like hysterically laughing. I was like, this is friggin' brilliant. I like to laugh, so if it makes me laugh, and I'm a happy, that's a win for me right there. The story could be kind of crappy and not have the greatest anything, but if I laugh, I'm good.
Well, and I think the reason Shrek worked so well was because it does relentlessly mock like fairy tales and Disney and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of a heartwarming story, and because we were talking about how Disney did a better job of developing characters.
Yes.
Shrek did a really good job of rounding out
Yep.
their characters. So you want to see what keeps happening to them. Whereas some of the other ones that are satire or really punchy, they're kind of one-dimensional characters for the sake of a joke. So you're kind of done with it.
Yeah, that's why I used Shrek as the comparison earlier, because that's the only one I can think of that, even if it didn't continue on and have 2 more in the series and Christmas specials and everything else, you still at the end of that movie felt some sort of a connection with the characters. You know, Shrek and Fiona and Donkey, obviously, and even all the supporting characters that were involved in it. The gingerbread cookie and the 3 blind mice. I mean, it was just so absurd that you had to enjoy it. It was along those. It like Adrianne said, it's along the lines of like Blazing Saddles and Spaceballs. It's a friggin' spoof of every other of stuff that worked for years, or stuff that was popular in pop culture, just all jammed into one thing, and it's just so much stuff that you're like, and. I remember the first time watching it. I don't know who I'd seen it with or somebody. Maybe my mother was like, and my mother knows this, but watching it, she's like, I can't believe I was like, Ma, people forget. Walt Disney didn't write all those stories. They're adaptations from fairy tales that are hundreds of years old.
Right.
I said, he's just the one that did them all kind of first, so that's the ones that everybody thinks that's how the story's supposed to be. So when you see these different adaptations of it by different studios and different either darker tones or more comedic tones on it, people don't know what to do with it because they were raised on, this is the story of Cinderella, this is what happens, this is Snow White, this is what happens with this is, so on and so forth. And when it's changed around, and then once live action stuff started coming into play and Broadway plays and live TV things, it really just opened up the door for people's minds, and I don't think people knew what to do with all that stuff. But variety and options are good. It's just I think the general public, when some of these things started coming out more, just didn't know how to handle it, maybe. Or people at least who were just, brought up on Disney stuff and doesn't necessarily you had to be a geek like us and know every nuance of it, but people still did go to the movies to watch Disney movies without being fully enthralled in the whole world of Disney parks and collectibles and visiting all the time and all sorts of stuff like that. You could still just be the Disney movie buff, and not love every entity of the company. So
right,
I don't know.
I can still remember going on like our yearly treks to the beach every summer, and one night would be dedicated to whatever the Disney movie was that summer. Like that's what we were doing. We were going to the theater to watch the Disney movie. Nobody knew what it was. It was just whatever Disney movie was out. Like that's
no, definitely. And so off this list, another movie that I remember watching multiple times, and I don't know. I think I should show my kids this movie because it's a pretty strong, as cutesy as it's animated, and it seems like it's a fairly dark movie. I think if you watch it all the way through, is The Brave Little Toaster.
People say that, and I've honest to gosh never seen the whole thing. They say it's freaky, but I've never watched it enough.
Yeah, because I know, towards the, I don't know what, I haven't seen it in a long time either, but there's one, and bonus, Thurl Ravenscroft he's a voice in one of it. I think he's the vacuum cleaner, if I remember correctly. So anyway, there's a point, I think, when they're trying to get out, when all the things are trapped wherever they are, and there's like an air conditioner that's a character, and he more or less sacrifices himself to get them, because he doesn't.
What are they trying to escape?
I don't remember. They get trapped. Like I don't remember the whole premise of the movie. Why they all? It's basically a bunch of outcasts, I think, or they all didn't like the toaster. A lot of it's kind of mean spirited. I think, like they're not very nice to him or each other. It's been such a long time. I probably am screwing the whole thing up, but I do remember that. I do remember that one scene with like the air conditioner and stuff, where it basically like kills itself. I think. For either and I don't even think it's for like the greater good. I think because he just is like a depressed, abandoned, like an air conditioner in the dump or something. They're stuck in the dump or something.
Okay, it says.
I don't know.
I'm on Wikipedia. At the junkyard, the appliances are tormented by a maniacal crusher with its henchmen, an evil tower crane with an electromagnet that picks up junk and places them to the crusher. Yeah, that's definitely creepy.
It is. And like I said, like the animation, like this is cute little toaster thing, but it's like, no, that's not how it is. Yeah, so that's another one that's like, whoa. And then you have your, then there's like the feel-good ones, I think, like American Tail. I remember that was huge when that came out.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't care for that one that much, or the one that was after. It just didn't do it for me. It was a little too cutesy for me, even though I know it wasn't meant to be that, I don't think.
Has anyone ever seen Ferngully?
I've heard of it, but I did not see it.
Okay.
It's kind of making a comeback.
Kind of like a animated. I mean, it's really Avatar and in cartoon form. But Robin Williams voices a slightly blind bat. Yeah, Batty.
And we still to this day quote that movie.
My kids do too.
Yeah.
And that's why it's one of the ones I've seen, because my kids love that movie.
I've never seen that one. I have.
But it's a little dark. It's all about the environment. And,
a lot dark.
Yeah, it's a lot dark. But you know what I'm saying, like. But it's a good one, just for Robin Williams. There's nothing else.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to think. There was
And the Land Before Times, aren't there like?
There's like a bazillion of those ones. Yeah, I
think I've
seen the original, but then again, those things too. Those are a little too kiddie and cookie cut.
Listen, that one made me cry too.
What's that?
The first one made me cry.
Did die? I don't remember.
His mom died. Littlefoot's mom dies, I think.
I don't know enough about them.
Yeah.
I know if I've only seen.
It's like a sad version of gosh, what are those? With the mammoth.
Ice Age.
Yeah, it's like a sadder version of Ice Age.
I forgot about Ice Age.
Gosh, how many of those are there now? Like
there's
six?
Like there's the fourth one. The fourth one's coming out, I think.
Okay. It just feels like those are still coming out, and they started when I was
there was
so young. And they're just
long
going.
Gaps in between those. Those movies I like. I like the Ice Age movies because of the comedic value of them. You got Ray Romano, you got Dennis Leary. Who's the mother? I forget who the woman one is. Jennifer or somebody. I don't know. Whoever it is, but
yeah.
No, those movies are good because then again, the comedy stuff and John Leguizamo is like the stupid lemur thing or whatever he is. Like the Sid, right. the dopey, whatever sloth. He's a sloth.
Yes, and then the squirrel.
Yeah, Scrat. Yeah, never gets his nut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those movies are just funny because they're funny.
Yeah.
Because the story is, whatever. It's not the greatest story. The story isn't the greatest thing written, but it's just the way it's presented to you makes it entertaining and makes you laugh.
Yeah.
So that's, as I said before, if it makes me laugh throughout the whole thing, I can somewhat forgive the crappy storytelling and non-character development, but these movies that they keep making sequels of, you kind of get into the characters because they're there for a long time. I don't get the same feelings for these ones as I do for I've never shed a tear at any of these other movies like I would at the end of some certain Disney films, but
so I can't believe we didn't mention Anastasia already.
I don't know that I've seen the whole thing. Like, I know of it, but...
Oh, it's so good.
I think that's the first movie I ever saw in a theater, actually.
It's so good. I mean, it's obviously based off, the Romanov family.
So,
yes. Yeah.
From Russia.
The Lost Princess.
Yes, the Princess. And it has the song Once Upon a December. And Angela Lansbury is in it. And they made it into a Broadway play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it still holds up as an adult. It's still enjoyable to watch, I think.
I'll have to check that out.
It's good. Mm-hmm. And I think not Fraser Crane, but who is it that
Kelsey
plays
Grammer?
Fraser Crane?
Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
Fraser's was there.
Oh, y'all, I think I'm getting a little punch drunk. But anyway, I think he does a voice and sings in it too. It's very good.
He and
A lot
John
of people
Cusack
think it
are the
is
two Russians.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kelsey Grammer, to go off topic first. So last weekend, when the Freeform channel was doing its Pixar marathon, it was playing all the Toy Story movies, and then Ratatouille was on, and a bunch of other stuff. So Toy Story 3 was on, and we were watching it. We were at a friend's house. Toy Story 2. And so the part came on with the prospector and the whole thing with that, and I had said, I don't know if my wife said, whose voice is that? Or I had said something about Frasier or something like that, and Steph was like, what? I was like, that's Kelsey Grammer. That's who's doing the prospector's voice. She's like, no, it's not. I was like, where the hell have you been for the past 20 years? I was like, yes, that's his voice. She's like, it doesn't sound like him. I was like, are you friggin' kidding me? I said, some stuff he says, like when he raises his voice, he said, absolutely sounds like Frasier. I said, and you watched that show. We just watched reruns of it on Cozy or whatever, that other channel, for like a week straight. It was on, like, constantly. I was like, ah. So, anyway. Yeah, so that was a funny aside. I know I'd sent a tweet about it. So Freeform was on. We were at friend's house, and the kids, we were eating dinner. We're inside because it was raining or whatever. And the kids are all running around and playing, and the adults are sitting there watching. We watched Toy Story 2, and then we watched Toy Story 3, and then by that time, everybody had moved in the other room, but then I came back on the couch because I was tired, and Ratatouille came on. I sat and watched that with my daughter. Yeah, Toy Story 3, I was like, I got up and walked out of the room when it came to the end. I was like, nope, I'm not crying in front of everybody. Even though I've seen it enough times.
I was going to say, by the time you get to Toy Story 3, you probably needed, like, copious amounts of alcohol to deal with the emotions.
That was probably making it worse. Copious amount of alcohol that were being had anyway. 1 and 2, I don't get choked up on. Because they're just, they're fun. Nothing that tragic really happens. The third one is like, God damn it.
Listen.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know the trash compactor scene, like, with the fire.
Still,
I
though,
hear you.
it's like still. You know what's happening, but it's still like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It still gets you, like, the look on their face. And you imagine how they must have felt. And then you realize that they're toys.
It's ridiculous.
And this is ridiculous. But you can't stop
it's
yourself.
horrible. And the only one I think that gets me more than that is, and it's not even like the greatest movie, but the end of it kills me, is it's not the second Lilo and Stitch. I think it's the third one. Stitch has a glitch when he, like, basically dies at the end because he's short-circuiting.
Oh. Haven't seen that one, but I don't want to.
Well, because the second one was, I don't know, Leroy and Stitch. I don't know. There was a bunch of different ones. It was Stitch has a glitch, and he's basically malfunctioning, and they can't figure out. Jumbo can't figure out how. Yeah, and towards the end of the movie, he's just trying to run away because he knows that something's going wrong with him. Yeah, he's basically dead for like a little while. And it's like, oh my God, yeah.
Aww.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Love it.
I do too. That's why it kills me. Anyway, I promise you, I'm an adult.
The Japanese movies on this list, like Spirited Away, and there's another one I can't remember, Kiki's Delivery Service, they're all by
Ghibli? The one who did...
Yeah, Miyazaki.
Isn't that the one who did Ponyo? That same studio?
Yeah,
okay.
Sam Ponyo.
And Totoro.
Okay. I haven't seen any of those either. Not one of them.
Those are excellent.
I've heard they are.
They're a little weird, but they're excellent. Spirited Away is really weird. But Melanie went through a whole, my Melanie, not podcast Melanie, went through a whole Ponyo period.
I heard that was a really good and fun movie. I just never watched it.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of that animation,
I'm not
honest.
either.
Like, I can't. It takes me out of the story.
Yeah, it's...
But they are...
Yeah, it's very strange. I never... a buddy of mine was really heavy into that Japanese animation, and not so much these movies, like some of the... Not underground stuff. I mean, it's popular there, but some of the more comic booky type Japanese animation stuff like the superhero, like Sailor Moon and that kind of stuff, and I just didn't get it. I was like, it's weird. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, so some of the other movies that I had written down that weren't on that list that I know my kids have watched and are watching now just because of Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything else is obviously Shrek was on there. My daughter really loved for the longest amount of time was when it came out was that Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs movie, which is actually I think it's a fun movie. It's good. I've watched it with her.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when it came out, it was, they were fighting over the DVD player between that and then whatever my son was into at the time. And I liked it. I thought it was funny. It was, it was goofy.
I mean, the scene where they're like jumping through the Jello, like as an adult, I'm like terrified because you're gonna breathe out of your lungs. But as, like the child in me is like, God, that would be fun. I want to squish it through my face.
Absolutely. And another one along the line with that, which I think Cloudy was a DreamWorks film. So another one was Shark Tale, the one with Will Smith, and I forgot. That one was pretty good. It was good. It's okay. It's another was that because I think of the star power of the names that were involved in the movie, it kind of makes it easier to watch.
It had Angelina Jolie too, didn't it?
I believe she might have been the girl fish. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I haven't seen it in forever, but that was popular for a little while in my house. The one that seems my son has found, my youngest 6-year-old has found on, which is completely annoying, but I've sat through it twice with him and I don't know why, is that damn Trolls movie.
Oh, now listen, the music makes that totally
Yeah, but I don't like that kind of music. I don't like that pop music. It drives me nuts.
But when she's doing the sound of silence,
that's good.
Her to be
that's
quiet,
good. That part, okay, I'll give you that. That's good, because that's a good song. But all the other stuff is annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
To me. And the movie itself is just kind of like, I don't know. I guess it's well done. I don't know. I can't tell how I feel about it. And like I said, I've sat through it twice with him, and I'm like, damn it, this friggin' movie. It's like,
see, I love Justin Timberlake and I love Anna Kendrick, so it just kind of like so I'm okay with that one. How about Rio? Did your kids get into Rio?
I couldn't think of that. Okay. I saw the first one. I didn't see. I liked that movie.
I like that one. I didn't like
see the second one, but the first one was good. I liked it.
I think that one's DreamWorks too. So I think we're seeing that maybe DreamWorks is the top contender.
Wasn't now, and I feel like I always get this wrong when I explain it to people. Wasn't a bunch of the guys who left Disney or didn't like the direction it was going were ones who started DreamWorks? Wasn't there a couple like?
I thought DreamWorks was like Steven Spielberg.
Okay, then
am I wrong?
Steven Spielberg was behind it for a little while.
Okay, so I'm off a little bit. I thought there was like some major animators like that left and were working with DreamWorks.
Well, and now Disney's the distributor for the DreamWorks.
Are they really?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, yeah. It distributes DreamWorks through Touchstone.
Gotcha. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Touchstone. I forgot about that.
Oh, it says, though, as of October 2016, DreamWorks films are marketed and distributed by Universal Pictures.
Oh, so it's brought it back in-house.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it was created by Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg,
right.
And
David Katzenberg was a Disney executive.
I thought that name sounded familiar.
I don't remember what he held, but he was in there for a while.
Oh yeah, he was in there from 84 to 94, so the Renaissance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was responsible. That's right. That's why. Duh. And I think I just listened to or read something about him too. Yeah, he was instrumental, I think, with those Renaissance films. Katzenberg with green lighting all of them, I believe.
Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King.
That was his namesake, I think.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, he also did Madagascar.
Oh, I forgot about those. Those movies I liked. That goddamn song is that friggin' I Like to Move It song with the lemur singing it. For some reason, I think I downloaded it 13 years ago or whenever, when my youngest was born, my oldest was born, and for some reason it follows every phone I have. It's the only thing that automatically re-downloads. So now the 6-year-old plays it all the time, and it's like Afro Circus, and like, oh god damn it. Yeah, those movies are good. I forgot about those. I haven't seen those in a while. Yeah, I like Madagascar. I like all of them. There's some good.
DreamWorks did Kung Fu Panda, which was stupid.
Yes, it was very stupid.
I just saw which one? The third one? One of them was on Netflix, and the little guy put it on there. And I've never seen any of the other ones because, I don't... It looked stupid to me then, and it was stupid. It was absolutely just dumb.
Was it? It's Jack Black.
I don't mind him, just the movie was just dumb.
Oh, Boss Baby. My kids were into Boss Baby for a while.
I have not sat through it, but that's on Netflix, so yes, they've been watching that.
Yeah, there's a show now, too, on Netflix. Yeah.
That's one I tried to watch, and I know it's for kids, and these aren't primarily for adults, but with most animated movies, you can still kind of enjoy it. I thought that was so hard to watch. It was just
didn't
so
it do
stupid.
good, like, in the theaters? Didn't people think it was, like, the greatest thing in the world, or am I wrong on that?
It got nominated
That's what
for
I mean.
an
I was
Oscar.
like, what the hell?
No. It grossed $498 million.
Well, people must have been desperate for something else. Who was...
Alec Baldwin.
I was going to say, who was the voice actors that were involved in it? Because I don't even remember.
Alec Baldwin and not Jimmy Fallon. No, who's the other late night host?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Kimmel.
Really?
Yes, Jimmy Kimmel.
I mean, I love Alec Baldwin, but I don't know if he would make me go watch an animated film.
Yeah. No. Oh, and Home. They did Home. That was a big one. It was.
Is that the one with
about the alien, the
Sheldon
purple alien?
Was the voice, right? I
yes,
didn't see that.
Sheldon.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that one either.
I remember that.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Ooh, Mr.
That
Peabody
was kind
and
of
Sherman.
funny.
That one
I remember seeing, not in the theater,
good.
but I do remember watching that. I think we ended up buying the DVD of that. That was okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's.
Oh, it gives the Rotten Tomatoes score, too. That's pretty awesome. Okay, Captain Underpants has an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That one's been on a lot because it's on Netflix. And I haven't seen all of it because they just go and watch, like, the one part where they're in the classroom where they fart and burp the song. It's
ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I think that part's hysterical because just, farts are funny. And, but I haven't watched it beginning to end. But the kids, kids watch it and they friggin' howl the whole time. So it must be good, or it must be funny. I mean,
hilarious. Okay, How to Train Your Dragon is at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. So go see it.
Watch it. I remember wanting to see it when the first one came out. It's been a while, right? The first one's been out.
It was released in 2010.
Okay, 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So
yeah,
just a little bit. Just a little behind. Yeah,
just a little. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, so there are some good ones out there. I like I said, I think for these other ones, I think the biggest difference for me is, and it's not even because, and it's not a bias thing because I'm a huge Disney fan. I don't think most of those have repeatability in the sense that I'm gonna say, all right, I feel like watching something, like I feel like watching an animated film. Let me throw on Madagascar. It's just those. Right. None of those movies are ever gonna be like the first thing I pick. Like it's gonna be Cars or Nemo or Tangled or Wreck-It Ralph or ones that I don't know, that I've seen more than those other ones. But I don't know. I think I just get more multiple enjoyment out of those, even though I've seen them and I know the story and I can recite lines with them. It was the same thing with the Pirates films. I was just saying to myself the other day, like, I haven't sat and watched those in a very, very long time, where I used to, watch those movies at least once a month, and, I would start, like, the kids would go to bed, and I'd pop one on at 9 o'clock at night, and Stephanie would fall asleep in the other room, and I'd watch a 3-hour movie at 9 o'clock at night, even though I had to go to work the next day, because I wanted to watch the movie, and like, I think it was Adrianne that said it earlier on, that just sucks you in this world, because that's what those movies did to me. When I'm watching those movies, it could be a war zone around me, and I would have no clue what's going on, because I'm so focused and just, like, sucked into that world of where they are, and I'm like, God damn. I want to be there
Yeah.
too. And I think that's where Disney wins in their storytelling and with their backgrounds and everything with stuff. To me, you know, because there's no other movies that do that for me. Franchises or series or anything, you know. I mean, I've not seen the Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or any of those other ones, so maybe I don't have much to compare it to, but you know, those films and Star Wars
like
does
said,
the same
like,
thing, you know, some of them,
Oh yeah, I can sit.
you know,
watch
and now
those for
with
days.
the Marvel stuff that I'm getting into, that those 1000%, I can, you know, I mean, I can
Yeah.
sit and put Ragnarok at any given time and just be like, you know, I don't, you know, everything else can be falling
Yeah.
apart around me, but I don't care. I'm watching this now.
We actually did that on our drive back from Disney, like because I have that Movies
Yep.
Anywhere app and
Nice.
unlimited data. We just threw on Guardians 2,
Nice.
and yeah,
Can't go wrong.
great.
Yeah,
Like you said,
yeah.
rewatchability.
I was on it when that movie came out. After I saw it in the theaters, and when I got the DVD, that was literally, I think, for about a month. I think I watched that movie once a week, Guardians 2, because I just loved it so much, and I'd laugh just as hard at every single thing every time, and I'd get upset at the end every time when Yondu dies, and the Ravager funeral and the whole thing, and it was like, God damn it. So, you know, I don't know. To each his own. There's probably people that are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum as all of us, who feel that all these other movies are far superior to anything that Disney puts out, and hey, that's fine. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, even though they're wrong, but...
Those people aren't listening to a Disney podcast.
Probably not. But... So, I don't know. I mean, there continues to still be good non-Disney animated films that are being put out today. I mean, the level just keeps getting raised. It seems like by every studio as time goes on. So, you know.
And I think it's just proof that Disney, just like with its parks, it can't rest on its history. It can't rest on its laurels. It has to continue to be innovative,
ever evolving. Well, because
Yeah.
you know what happens if they do stuff like that, and I guess it's with a parks reference, it's the same thing. I mean, we all complain about change and old attractions closing and then putting new stuff in, but you know, for people who you like familiarity, whatever, you know what I mean. I can't say that word. You like things to be familiar when you go, because that's what keeps you coming back. But then there is also that sense of wanting to do and experience new things, and it just seems to be where they're at now, especially with the park stuff and all these new properties that they've acquired in the past 5 years. So,
right.
Yeah, but as far as movies go, I mean, as far as animated features for coming up soon, I mean, you got Incredibles in about 2 weeks, or a week, but maybe when you hear this, so mid-June. Yeah, super excited for that. And I think that's it till Ralph in Thanksgiving.
I think so.
As far as animated features go? Yeah,
As far as animated,
Yeah.
I mean, those are two huge films. I mean, at great times. I mean, you got midsummer, school's just going to be getting out for most of the country, and in mid-June, so it's like a huge opening weekend, you would imagine, for that, and highly anticipated. I mean, Incredibles, people have been screaming for a sequel for that. And the minute the minute the first one ended, when was that? 2004.
Yeah.
Right, 14 years ago.
Yep.
So,
like that. Yeah.
Ralph has not been as long, but I hear mixed things about that about people. But I loved that first movie. I thought it was fantastic.
Love
It was
it.
well done. It was different. It was just, I don't know. That movie is fantastic. Lots of great quotable lines. No cuts, no butts, no coconuts is a constant in our house. Or I love my mama, and
Yeah, it's great.
I'm excited for that one too, because especially the trailer just came out was great. Because I'd love to know how. I guess Disney owns half of that stuff, but it's like it's not like movie name versions of all this stuff in the internet. Like it's the actual Google and the logo. There's like a Snapchat thing they show, a Facebook, Amazon, and it's like the real logos. It's not like maybe they're off enough that they didn't have to pay. I don't know, but it was just like, holy crap! It's like the real actual everything, which I guess you kind of have to do if you're doing that with the movie. So
I feel like at this point they anticipate the movie being so big that those retailers are probably like, can we please have our logo in your movie? We'll pay you lots and lots and lots of money.
It's like free advertising, yeah. Everybody wins.
Exactly.
So, I don't know.
Product placement at its finest.
So I can't think of anything else, any other movies that stick out other than the ones we mentioned.
I can't either.
So,
which I mean, like I think we said kind of at the start, I think Disney is still king, obviously, for animated features, but you know, DreamWorks had a good
they definitely do. I mean, there's definitely plenty of quality other films to watch animated from other studios. Yeah, I think DreamWorks is probably the heavy second. I would agree. They have a list of blockbusters because a lot of those movies all did very, very well in the theater, and you know, I'm sure DVD sales did well when people still bought those.
Right.
What's a DVD?
You know what? I still do too, because number one, sometimes it's just easier to throw the DVD on because not all the streaming services have all the movies. I know supposedly all this stuff is supposed to happen and everything is supposed to be on every, you know, or whatever Disney's trying to do as far as Disney movies are concerned, but you know, sometimes these streaming services don't have movies that I want to watch, so your only other choice is to buy the DVD.
We still have the Disney Movie Club, so every month I'm like, oh hey, look what I forgot that I bought this month. But it always comes with the virtual digital copy.
Yeah,
so it just goes in my Anywhere app.
There you go. Yeah, quite a few years ago, but yeah, we used to do the same thing, and it was great. Hey, listen, I built my collection up like ridiculously fast. So I have drawers and drawers full of DVDs, and then I started replacing them all on Blu-ray, so then I have multiple copies of stuff, and prior to that I had everything on VHS.
I know, I used to work at a movie rental place. It's bad. Like, my collection was insane for a while. I had to chill out.
I'm glad to say that all the Disney VHS tapes that I had, I gave to somebody who was looking for VHS tapes for their children to watch, putting them in and out so they didn't ruin DVD players. So I sent this woman on Twitter that I followed, who and it was like so random that she like put out a tweet, and you know how Twitter's timeline goes, it doesn't exactly go in order, and so it was kind of like the universe was telling me it was meant to be, and I saw it and I DM'd her. I was like, listen, I got 2 boxes full of VHS tapes. I sent her pictures of everything. I said, she's like, what do you want for them? I was like, pay for the shipping. I don't want anything for them. I want you to, if you and your children are going to enjoy them, that's what I want. Because other than that, they were just going to get donated to the library, which ended up didn't want them, so they were honestly just going to get thrown out. So I shipped, $30 worth of shipping, and this woman and her kids got, however many hundreds of dollars of movies there were in those stupid things, but all in their cases, those big cases that the Disney movies used to come in, and yeah, there was a lot. There was everything. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the squishy cases. Yeah. Now I have skinny DVDs all over the place, and Blu-rays and whatever else. So I don't know. I enjoyed still getting. I know we're off the topic, but I think we're kind of done with what we're saying. But on the DVD front, I enjoyed buying the DVDs because of. A lot of them because of like the bonus stuff that it came with. Like, I'll use the Pirates films for examples. Like, I have all 5 of them on DVD, and I know the latest 2 that came out didn't really have much as far as bonus features, but the third one at World's End had, at least the one that I have, I think it has 2 extra DVDs, and the bonus features on it and the making of the movie stuff, to me, is almost just as fascinating as like I watch those just as much. I would watch the movie, and then I would watch all those other things afterwards. So it turns out you're sitting in front of the TV for like 5 hours. But that stuff is fascinating to me because it's a series and movies that I truly love. So seeing how they made them and how they did the special effects and watching this and watching that, to me, was just friggin' fascinating. The on-location stuff, I love that. So to me, it was extra interesting. So I think you can rent them now. Like I know on Netflix and stuff like that, especially with the Marvel movies, they have like either the theatrical version or they have with bonus content. I'm assuming that's the same stuff that they would put on those DVDs if you bought the DVD. I don't know. I haven't rented one, so I don't.
Been a while.
Yeah, I last time I tried to rent one, I rented it and I never watched it in the whatever the time period was, and so it was like a waste of $3 or whatever the hell it is. So I was like, well, I won't do that again. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this week. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we thank you for listening, and we will talk to everyone next week. Follow our troupe at www.dizexplorers.com, where you can find all the links for all our hosts' social media accounts. You can also follow the podcast on our Facebook group at The Diz Explorers and on Twitter and Instagram at The Diz Explorers. You can download this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher Radio, and also on YouTube. Thanks for listening.
Hope you had a good time. So long from Jiminy Cricket and Spectro Magic.